Hello, my name is Beck and welcome to a video where I talk about some books that I would love to see as adaptations because I just think they'd work really well if they go from book to screen. So let's get into the list. First up, I've got Lifelike by J. Kristoff, and this is a young adult sci-fi, and Lifelike follows a girl named Eve, and Eve is having pretty much the worst day of her life because she is in this bout for robots, but her robot gets destroyed before her eyes. She's also discovered that she can actually manipulate electronics with her mind, and as such, a cult-like group in this world is after her and in pursuit of her. So it follows Eve and her best friend Lemon Fresh, and it's set in this really grungy, gritty, dirty sci-fi dystopian world. You really get a sense of the grot and grime of this world when you're reading it because the planet has pretty much been destroyed by global warming and the weather is always really hot and sticky, and that's how I felt reading this. I understood the characters and their setting so well just from the way that Jay conveyed the grossness of the world. And I think this would work really well as like a Netflix adaptation or something, like an episodic adaptation on Netflix, because you really get snapshots of different parts of action. There are a few key characters that you can really latch onto and connect with, and I think this would just work really well on a small screen rather than a movie. I think if it was a movie, I'd find it too condensed, and if it was a TV series, you really get to see more of a breakdown of the world building that I really loved so much. So Lifelike, I would definitely love to see adapted by Netflix. Next up, I have This Mortal Coil by Emily Suveda, and I filmed a vlog at the beginning of this year when I went to a book launch for her second book in this series, and I think the third one is either out now or it's out very, very soon. This is a young adult kind of dystopian zombie story, but it deals more with the sci-fi-ness of it rather than the zombie part of it. It's about a girl named Kat, and she has just lost the guardian that she has looked up to for her entire life, and she's been living in this apocalypse with him for the last 2 years, and he's a lead geneticist, and she's been learning kind of the tricks of the trade from him. Everyone in this world has an implant in their arm where they can easily adjust and adapt the genetics of their bodies to reflect the way they want to look and the way their immune system works and all that kind of thing. So Kat has a bit of an understanding about how that works, so that really links into the viruses in this world. And her guardian was on the brink of discovering a cure for this zombie virus, and so he was captured and she was left behind because she hid. And so it's about her surviving and meeting this guy named Cole, who is apparently genetically coded to be protective of her because she needs a guard in this world. And the way I described it in my vlog earlier this year, I remember saying that it was like watching a giant action movie on screen and just like eating popcorn. It was really easy to digest, it was really action-packed, and it had a few gut-wrenching things happen in this as well. And so for that reason, I think it would work really well as a movie. I can just envision this on the big screen and going back in my seat when certain body horror things are happening in this book and when the main character's making particular revelations. I just think that would be great. And also because I said it was a zombie movie, but they're not traditionally like zombies, so they do get infected with this virus and they do attack people like zombies do, but after a certain point their body kind of clicks over and it's literally like a ticking time bomb and the zombies explode. So from the explosions they spread the virus. So it's about minimizing that and killing the zombies before they can do that. I just think this is a really unique premise for a zombie story. I love how Kat's our protagonist and she is really science focused because I don't read a lot of books with a science or genetics focused main character, and that's one of the things I liked about her. Would love to see a movie of this, and definitely the second book as well. Third one, I haven't read it yet, but I'm assuming I'll enjoy it too. The next one is another dystopian throwback, and I haven't touched this series in a very long time, and that is Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. This is a real throwback to like 15 or 16-year-old me just getting into books like this and the Hunger Games, but this one follows Tally, and she lives in this world where everyone is ugly until you turn 16 and then you get an operation to become pretty, and she is really rebelling against this system. It's a very dystopian world, but it's also very sci-fi, and she has a hoverboard and all that kind of thing, and she goes on this adventure to save her friend and run away essentially from the operation because she doesn't want to lose her brain and become a pretty. That's how she views it. And I think, again, like This Mortal Coil, this would work really well as a movie. It was really digestible when I obviously read it like 10 years ago, and I think that this also would work as a series. I would love to see Uglies on the big screen because I think this sci-fi world really has a place in films at the moment, especially with The Hunger Games and Divergent already paving a way. I want to see an Uglies movie. The next one is a lesser known book, and it is a young adult book called Gap Year in Ghost Town by Michael Pryor, and this is actually set in Melbourne, which is why I wanted to include it on this list. And I think this would work as an episodic series on Netflix or something as well. It follows two characters, Anton and Rennie, and Anton is a guy who is 17 or 18 years old, and his family have been a family of ghost hunters, and he just doesn't want to do that. He wants to go to uni and get a degree and pursue a life outside the family business. And Rami is essentially kind of like a soldier or has been trained by some secret society or academy to fight ghosts, and she is paired up with Anton by this agency basically, and they both have to investigate the recent spikes in ghost activity around Melbourne. I just think this would be a potential for Melbourne to be on the screen in some form. I'd love to see my home city on the screen for other people to experience as well. And it's also a very smart book, it's very funny, and it's got a few spooks in it too. I think these are just the perfect ingredients for people to get on board with and really enjoy. And this is only the first in a series as well, so it has potential to be even bigger. So I would love to see this one adapted into some sort of episodic series. It doesn't have to be on Netflix, but I think that's just the standard. So I just love to see this on my TV. And then finally, the last one on this list, I don't actually have the first book, but it's Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer. So the first book is Renegades. I would love to see this on Netflix again. I think this would be a brilliant series, kind of like any Marvel or DC series that have been adapted already, like Jessica Jones or The Punisher. I think this would work really well for those audiences because this follows our main character named Nova, and she lives in a world that's kind of dystopian, kind of sci-fi. It's not exactly our world, it's kind of like an urban fantasy world where superheroes are the law basically, but there exists a supervillain side to the superhero side to balance it out. And Nova falls on the supervillain side because when she was little, her family got murdered, and while she was living this traumatic event, she called for these heroes, but they never came, and now she just doesn't believe in them. So it's about her conning her way into this superhero academy so she can get revenge for the deaths of her family. And again, it's fairly fast-paced. It follows a bunch of key characters, Nova particularly, but also the supervillains and the superheroes side, and I like the way that it investigates morals as well, and it's also got some really interesting superpowers which I like, and it's fairly unique that way. Seeing this as a movie would be great, but seeing it as a series would really give the chance to delve into all of the characters that we end up meeting across the different books. So I'm sad to say that was my last pick, but I'm sure I'd love to see pretty much all of the books that I've read adapted in some format, because wouldn't we all? I'd love to see all these fantasy come to life after the success of Game of Thrones, because we obviously all love fantasy, it's just the medium that we consume it in probably varies. But yes, that is it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you know a book that you want to have adapted, let me know in the comments, or let me know if you think my choices were good for this video or if I missed any. But I'll chat to you in the comments, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.